Hello, lovely souls. Welcome to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm Cristina Larero, a certified angel messenger and angel Reiki master teacher. My spiritual journey began in the spring of 2022 when my spirit team nudged me to listen to the amazing Angels and Awakening podcast by Julie Jancis. Since then, I've been learning to use my spiritual gifts and growing increasingly curious about spirituality and the various healing modalities. I'm so excited for you to join me on this special journey as we dive into spirituality and healing while exchanging our wisdom and profound insights with other remarkable healers. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, get cozy, and let's embark on the spiritual journey together. Hey there, it's Cristina the Angel Messenger here. I just wanted to remind you to stay connected with me for all the latest updates and angel messages. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Cristina Angel Messenger. Remember, that's Cristina. If you're interested in an Angel Reiki session, you can book one virtually or in person through my website at www.CristinaAngelMessenger.com. Remember, that's Cristina AngelMessenger.com. Stay tuned for more uplifting, insightful content on this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, lovely souls. Welcome back to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm Cristina, your host, and I have Jenny here. I'm so excited. This is our third time trying to schedule this. Divine timing is perfect. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to get into this juicy conversation.
I'm so excited. So I always start with the guest of introducing themselves. So who are you and what do you do?
I am Jenny Natyshak, and I am a retired corporate closet hippie that resigned from corporate a couple years back, and I truly am living my life by design instead of by default, if you will.
Ooh.
Yeah, so my soul was screaming. The little breadcrumbs in the universe kept on putting things in front of me, even a couple years before I resigned. And it just got louder. My soul's ache and screaming at me just got louder and louder. So I decided to resign. And since then, I've opened up a retreat center where I can run weekend retreats, workshops. My favorite thing in the world is women in circle, being heard and seen and healing together and collaborating in this beautiful community, and the other facilitators that have now been running workshops out of the lodge. And I also started leading with love movement. I'm really going back into corporate because I'm not going to forget maybe what I wish I had in corporate, I'm trying to bring into corporate with with doing workshops and training around emotional intelligence. We know, you and I, that leadership it has nothing to do with what title you have, how much money you make, leadership, right? It is inner work that you've done and doing the inside job, leadership's an inside job, I should say. So
Yeah.
really kind of going back into corporate and hopefully doing my part and making the impact. And so it trickles down from the top down in the leadership style that we can be heart-centered leaders. We don't have to lead with our ego. We can lead with our hearts and lead with love.
I love that. There is so much ego out there that I love that you're trying to get back everyone to their heart center because that's what everybody really is at their high vibrationals when they're back into their heart self.
Yeah. And of course, we need to use our mind. There's just a part of that conditioned, programmed mind that, for me, in my experience, even in the last 2 years, doing something completely different. But I still take action. It's inspired action instead of forced action. I almost allow my heart to be the filter of my thoughts, and so much more creativity lives there when you get to filter it right through your soul, your heart, your desires are there. We all have desires. They're placed, I believe, those little, if we're listening, if we pause long enough to listen,
Yeah.
um, because they're meant to go out into the world, these desires of ours. That's what I mean by my soul ache. I had such a desire to serve, be of service, and be a um, bring this wellness programs and workshops into the community, from the leaders to the entrepreneurs to the, I mean, we're all leaders, whether you're leading your household, you're leading your team, we're all leaders, just doing it a different way.
Absolutely. And that's the key is if you pause enough to listen. For me, I know like when I'm in my quote unquote real world job, I have a hard time listening because I'm such in the zone that I'm like, all right, I'm doing my thing, I'm doing my thing. And then every once in a while, I'll like feel a tug in my heart, like, slow down. You don't need to do everything at once. So I love how
Yeah.
you added that to that you have to listen, take a moment and pause. I'm trying to incorporate that more in my life as well.
Yeah, and it's hard. And my business partner and I now we've got an approach. It's our signature framework around um, it's called hands on heart. Go figure. It is taking that,
Mm,
placing your hands on your heart. That's getting into your body. That's getting help. That helps me drop from my mind to my heart as I touch it, like I'm embodying it. And
yeah.
then I inhale and I exhale, and then that is returning myself back to my center. What is our center? Our power, like making decisions from just such a different place than what I was used to in corporate for 25 years. Like I am leading completely different. And again, that's going into my heart. Like that's being heart centered and first off and foremost with compassion and kindness. That means with my style too. I'm human. Like I
Yeah.
will make mistakes, but I'll give myself that kindness and that compassion that I would give my team, that I would give my partner, that I would give my, yeah,
Yeah, and giving that compassion and that love is really important. I'll never forget in college, I was having a bad day, and my mentor back then, she unfortunately passed, said, you know, you're such a good student and you always want good grades, but you can't always get the good grades. So you need to talk to yourself as you were talking to your inner child or to your actual child. And I was like, wow, that really makes sense because you wouldn't freak out at your inner child for getting something wrong. So I love how you intertwine that saying like you have to be compassionate, like talk to yourself as you were talking to your team because you wouldn't want to be yelling at your team either.
yeah. And we are so self-critical. And that again is that default that our brains are wired to keep us safe. So we have to actually even have gratitude for that. But we're
Yeah.
no longer getting chased by saber-toothed tigers, right? So it's like replacing that self-criticism with, would I talk to a child this way? Would I talk to my friend this way? Get up, little Debbie.
Mm,
Oh, I would never speak to anybody else.
right.
So how can we do it to ourselves? And it's just catching that and then rewiring it. It's catching that again. My filter is my heart now, and it goes through. How can I reframe that with love and kindness and compassion? And then I repeat that 3 more times because we are just rewiring what we were taught, our conditioning, our
Yeah.
upbringing, our, yeah, our
It
wounds.
takes time, it takes practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I would love if you could go into your spiritual awakening. I really feature that in a lot of my podcast episodes because everyone's is different and
Mhm.
everyone's takes a different amount of time. I've had people just know and have a light bulb moment. I've had people who take years. So I'm always curious for my guests on what their spiritual awakening is like and what do they really call their spiritual awakening moments?
Yeah. Well, I love reflecting on this, and it's been a while. So thank you for this question because it was not overnight. It was not a Kundalini, right? It wasn't this big Kundalini awakening. Like there was no all near death. It was not a one thing that came
Mm,
for me. It has been over the last 10 years, and I slowly just integrated. I think my first thing that I started, I guess, is the breadcrumb. When I say
yeah.
desires, it's the breadcrumb. The first breadcrumb for me was was crystals. And then
Oh.
just feeling and then holding and then seeing the difference of when I wear one and have that protection or whatever the crystal is that I'm feeling for it to stay in alignment. Then it was essential oils a while later. And these are through retreats that I've gone on. So it's always been retreats for me. Like that is when
Mm.
I went, oh, I feel so safe. I feel so seen. Everybody around this circle and this retreat and this transformational, and this was with my life coach, which was again the
Mm-hmm.
piece of the breadcrumb. She
Yep.
asked me the first question on our first session together, if I could name my core desire, and I could not.
Oh, that's deep.
I went,
Yeah.
wow, it's worse than I thought. I was so on robot and so on default that I did check, check, check. I can tell you all the boxes I checked today. I can probably tell you my husband's core desire, my children's, my probably a couple of my employees, but mine, I don't have time for me. I got to make sure everybody else is around me. Okay. And kind of that's where I was in corporate, wearing that with a badge of honor almost like, look at me go, look at
Yeah.
me go, like external validation and praise. So when I was seeking and searching for my spiritual um what's the word I'm looking
Moment.
for, moment, it's not out there, it's not on the check marks, it's not in all those things. That's when I went inside and I started going, oh, what are my core desires? Again, writing that down, having gratitude,
Mm.
just getting out of the robot like same old every single day. And at first it wasn't like this, but I do this now with such curiosity and play. Like when I was scared to go inward. I was scared to go deep. I don't know why. Like, am I going to find something big bad when I was in my, like I put there was so much fear and so much resistance in all of these steps along the way. But finally, it's just that, okay, you get through that fear and you get through that discomfort. What's on the other side? Growth. You get through that fear, you get through that discomfort. What's on the other side? Spiritual growth. So mine was gradual. And then to lead me to owning a wellness retreat uh, venue, like it was a 10-year, but I'm so proud of myself because I kept following the breadcrumbs. And then the ultimate day that I decided to resign from the dealership, and I loved it, like until I didn't, or until I evolved myself, I guess, out of out of corporate.
Yeah.
It was the I'm not going to put myself on the back. It was like a self-talk for probably a year before I actually made the decision, was that I'm no longer going to let myself down. I'm no longer going to let my desires down. I'm no longer going to let my dreams down. No, I'm not putting, like, everything was my needs, my wants, my desires, my everything, dreams were on the back burner, like dismissing myself. And then what happens? You forget who you are. So remembering who I am is really just returning home to me. Where's that? That's my inner, that's my heart. That's it's returning home. Yeah.
Oh, so powerful.
Yeah.
And I love that you actually follow the breadcrumbs because for me, like I think for a lot of people, that's the hardest part is you get that nudge, you get that sign, and you follow it because you have the egoic mind that's trying to like protect you but stop you at the same time because it's afraid.
Yeah.
I've recently watched Inside Out 2. It's like a Disney
Love,
movie, it talks
love
about
those.
emotions. And I had this aha moment where anxiety was having, a freak out, a panic. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just trying to protect us. It doesn't know any better. So now I associate the egoic mind with the emotion anxiety because it's kind of one and the same for me. It's really trying to protect us. It doesn't know any better. It's not trying to stop us. It just was like, wait, think about it. So following the breadcrumbs is really important.
Yeah. And then while saying, wait a minute, that is also that reprogramming that we were talking about earlier, because we can't think our way out of feeling, and we have to feel all of our feelings fully, and they all get to be here. When I started giving love, compassion, and kindness to my anger, to my sadness, to my anxiety, to my
Mm-hmm.
fear, with just allowing it to live, allowing it to be here. I'm a human being,
Yeah.
letting it be instead of pushing it down or resisting it, right? Because we know what
Yeah.
happens when you resist it and push it down, it stores that in your emotional body. And then it becomes it's years of storage in your emotional body if you're not letting yourself feel it, the emotion all the way through
Yeah.
instead of pushing it down. And I do breath work. So I do one-on-one coaching as well that I've added into the breath work because you get to have conversations like this about what is coming up for you. It's stored there. It wants to come to the surface. If you are starting on your spiritual path or your personal growth journey, um, and you're no longer resisting it, which is the hardest part. It's such a practice, and I think
Yeah.
we'll be practicing for the rest of our days. But it wants to come to the surface, then we can breathe it out. I mean, there's so many different modalities now that are coming back to the mainstream about how we can
Yeah.
um, release blocked emotions that are in our body, from qigong to sound healing to Reiki to breath work, dance, ecstatic dance. Love that. We scream it out, cry it out,
Yeah.
lots of crying. And yeah, it's just beautiful to witness often the healing that's happening and the people no longer resisting the letting it come up to the surface and letting it be there. And I just get to hold them and hear them and listen to them so that they can feel that maybe something that happened when they were 5 years old, your inner child, you
Right.
5 years old, you never felt it fully. You were told it was silly. You were told this, you were told that. No, feel it now. Why?
Yeah.
Because it will be released if you feel it.
Hey there, it's Cristina the Angel Messenger here. I just wanted to remind you to stay connected with me for all the latest updates and angel messages. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Cristina Angel Messenger. Remember, that's Cristina. If you're interested in an angel Reiki session, you can book one virtually or in person through my website at www.ChristinaAngelMessenger.com. Stay tuned for more uplifting, insightful content on this podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
100%. And you really have to learn to feel those emotions because, like you said, they really get down there, but eventually they're going to come back up. And they're not going to come up in pretty ways,
No.
for sure. Um, I recently did a body code session with one of my healer friends, and she like released all these emotions, and I was like, I've never thought of that. Like she brought up an age, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. So there's all these different healing modalities, breath work, body code, emotion code, yoga,
Yeah.
you know, therapy. There's so many different ways now that I think as a collective, we're learning to open up to all our emotions and really tuning back into ourselves
Yeah.
and listening more to our bodies.
Yeah, and paying attention to the little ping maybe in your body to say, oh, am I holding, looking at that again with curiosity and play, because
Yeah.
it'll be a little ping and then it'll get bigger and then it'll be a much bigger if not resolved, if not felt all the way through. And I love that these modalities that you just spoke of, they've been around for thousands of years. And they're just coming. I think that there's a paradigm shift happening right now. And
Yeah.
not only are we starting to see these heart-centered leaders and again, we're all leaders, really having a different approach with compassion and kindness and authenticity instead of power and titles and what title you have and it being very from ego,
Hmm.
but this fear and I want to say controlled structured mind, and it's none of our faults. That's what's beauty
Right.
of this conversation too. Our parents did the best that they could. Our leaders in corporate, in schools, our teachers, whatever, whoever helped raise us, they did the best that they could with what they had. So now it's that generational patterns that are shifting. I see it. And it's our kids that are, like as I started waking up and returning home to me, then I'm teaching that to my children. They're going to have less, because I don't think we're learning anything new, is what I'm trying to say. I think we're
Yeah.
unlearning a whole bunch of conditioned and structured stuff that is not our fault. And that everybody did the best that they could. And it's, but if it, my, when did I start this work? 10 years ago, my kids were 10 and 13. Like they got to see mom going through it. I didn't hide. I did my morning routine. I have my sacred mornings to myself so that I can start the day full from a full cup and do the inner work. And that's that practice. It's a daily routine, just like uh you go to the gym to hone your physical muscles. You're doing these beautiful daily routines and practices to hone your spiritual muscles.
Absolutely. That's the way that the angels describe it to me is that you got to start to tone your spiritual muscles, just like your physical muscles. And that really clicked for me because like, not everybody sees energy as energy, you know what I mean? Like so to really see it as a muscle just clicked. And I love that you brought it up.
Yeah, because there is another thing that's I'm really, really excited about these days is that science is matching up right now with
Mm-hmm.
all of these modalities, and they have it proven, and they have the data now, and but again, they've been around for a long time. We just forgot about them. As collectively, we went after something different. The industrial age. We went after the jobs and the money and the material and the
Yeah.
outside influences. And now I think, no, I can feel it. Like everybody's starting to go, oh, but I forgot about me. I forgot about who I was on that, climbing that ladder, checking those boxes off, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also a societal thing. Like go to school, you go to college, you get your job, you get your degree, get married, pick white picket fence, and now it's really changing, and it's allowing all of us as a collective to get that spiritual hit, get that spiritual awakening. And I feel like there's more and more waves that are happening because we're being more open and starting to return back to home.
Yeah, and the more of us that are vibrating at that frequency, and again, collective and societal, like that is giving so many people permission that they can do it too. And that's
Yeah.
another part of the leading with love movement. Like, let's all raise our vibration, lead with love, let the heart be the filter. Um, Unlearn a bunch of things that we were taught and that were structured that are in us, and we can still be, I believe, even more effective and even more productive leading with your heart than leading with your ego. um
Yeah.
and imagine all these companies, like I can visualize it, like at a boardroom, the leader saying, okay, we're going to all center together, and let's just take 3 deep cleansing breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth before they start a meeting,
Yeah.
instead of like just to calm the mind, get in your body, and let's go create. And I think magic would be created instead of chaos, because you're not centered, and um, taking that
Yeah.
action from that inspired place, that
Yeah.
centered.
And the energy just isn't right when you don't center yourself. Like I always can tell at work when I'm like, I didn't center myself, right before I'm like, oh, this feels different. And my body's like, you gotta breathe. Remember to breathe. And I've started like taking little 5 minutes walks out of my office. So I'm like out of that and like energy and then come back with a fully fresh energy.
Yeah. And 5 minutes, it doesn't take that long. But it's like you're just going to check the next box. You're just going to and that
Mm-hmm.
again with societal pressure and work, like work pressure. You're watching people, you may be watching people around you and they didn't take a break. So I'm not going to take a break, and I can't look like I'm lazy. I can't look like I'm not enough. I can't look like our, we
It's this competition
don't take
that
care
we
of
have.
ourselves and the competition. Yeah. But all that's changing. And the more that you get up every single whenever you need it, because it doesn't have to be doesn't have to be one more box to check. I think some people take this and go one more box to check. It could be when you feel out of center. And the only way you're going to know that is when you know what your alignment feels like. So many
Yeah.
people around us do not know what that alignment feels like. Their nervous systems are shot. They're on fight or flight all the time, running to the next thing over their shoulder, looking at what did I miss? What did I do? Like living,
Hmm.
how do you get centered? Um, and it can take 5 minutes. That's what's so beautiful about the power of your breath, about the power of your body, about the power of your heart. We've let go of everything from here down, I think, over the last hundreds of years,
Yeah.
worked with this, and it got us far. Like, look at all the beautiful technology and the stuff that we have going on. But now we get to drop from our head to our hearts and do, um, and just change the way
Yeah.
we are that competition into collaboration, that force and push into inspired action. Like we get to the a lot of people are having these conversations like you and I are having, and I just
Yeah.
love having these conversations, because the more we talk it out, again, the more people that are changing their frequency, remain not remaining realigning every time they're
Yeah.
out of alignment, because we are going to get out of alignment, um and coming and acting and doing and being, because we forget about the being for a very long time, then it's a
Yes.
happier households, happier communities, happier organizations. We can bring in the kindness, compassion, joy, happiness back. It's been gone for a long time. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, and when you feel those higher vibrations, they're just so yummy. Like you don't want to get out of them. And the angels are just bringing in, like, if clair feeling is not one of your senses, then imagine it. Or if you're visual, like see it. Like for me, when I'm communicating with my inner child, it will light. And I always don't see color, but it lights up a different density. So like for me, like kind of like my light. So if my inner child's happy, I kind of get this glowing effect, but if it needs a little love, it's a little bit dimmer. So think about that when you're trying to find what your alignment feels like, because it feels different for everybody. And they're also
Depending.
bringing me through back to when you were talking about the crystals. Start with a
Okay.
crystal because they really do feel different. At first, I didn't feel it, but now they really feel differently. Do you want to talk about a little bit about your crystal journey? Because I think Spirit's trying to bring that through for listeners.
Okay. Well, again, it was done with lots of curiosity at first and skepticism. Let's be real. I was very going, it's a rock, like it's not going to do anything,
Yeah.
until I have them with me for sleeping, to help me sleep, and then I'm sleeping better. Like, there was one crystal, I forget the name of it, but I wore it for the last 2 years that I was in corporate, and it was for protection and
Mm,
against activity. And as I'm trying so hard every day in maybe a not so positive environment, keep my vibration up, not dim my light, keep that frequency of compassion and love. As a leader, I was a part owner and a leader. So that crystal, I could tell the difference when I did not have that on, and when going
mm.
into to work, and when I did have it on. And it's a funny little story, but I just love how the universe works. Like, I actually went to go look for it maybe, I don't know, a few months ago. Um, and I couldn't find it.
Ooh.
And it was a little bit of money, but I was not upset about it, because if I had left it at a retreat, or I left it in
Hmm.
Sedona, or I left it somewhere, I'm like, I just pray and hope that somebody that needs it receives this crystal because that
Yeah.
showed me that I didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, I don't know all the names of it. I'm more of a feeling knowing.
Yeah, me too.
This is juniper, I think. It's so beautiful. This is to help keep uh my center and help me keep in alignment, my chakras. So
Mm,
I wear this every day now because that is my like that is my goal and that is my practice every single day. Um I have them at all my crystals around all my
mm,
circles. I have crystals that I give as gifts for the retreat participants at the lodge. Like they are, if everything is energy, which it is, including
yes.
us, then why wouldn't we have that energetic difference shift in energy because of that piece of energy that's magical. I mean,
Hmm.
I haven't got yet, and this is I hope to do one day, to all these beautiful pyramids and these beautiful, that is all to do with geometry and energy and crystals and the right, like it's
Yeah.
another modality and something that we've been using as a human race for thousands and thousands and thousands of years that was just kind of forgotten for a little bit and it's all coming back. Yeah.
Yeah. And if crystals are kind of like tuning into you right now, when I started playing with crystals is I would hold one during meditation and see what it feels like. But I would also try it in different hands because they do say like I believe it's the left one is receiving and the right one is giving. Maybe it's the other way around, but
You're right. I think it's right.
right?
I think it's a lot. Yeah.
And you'll feel the difference, like, or put it on a piece of your body. So, like the rose quartz, I like to put on my chest to like bring the love back into my heart center. And you don't have to spend quite a lot of money. Like, you can buy the little tiny ones first because those hold a lot of energy too. Of course, the
Hmm.
bigger you go, the more energy it
Yeah.
provides, but you start with the little ones. Like, I got a chakra system one where it's just little triangle ones and it's each chakra. So sometimes I'll place it on each chakra to realign.
Yeah. Yeah. It's magical.
It really is magical. And again, if you're not a feeler, see what senses you have with that particular crystal.
So you're talking about the clairs, right? The
Yes.
clair
Yeah.
knowing, the clair sentient, the clair, I believe,
Audience is,
yeah, it's audible visual, like you can visualize it,
yeah.
you hear it,
Can hear it?
you can you feel it.
Yes.
Then what's, yeah. How many clairs are there?
Seeing, hearing, feeling. I believe there's
The,
tasting.
ah,
Um,
feeling different than knowing? I
yes.
forget. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, like clairaudience is kind of my stronger one. So instead of seeing the colors, I'll hear the colors, or they'll write on like a black chalkboard for me when I feel like my clairvoyance is a little stronger. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why I always like to bring up the other clair senses because we're not all the same. I
Yeah.
believe that we all have all the clair senses, but we have we haven't discovered all of them yet, or we have a stronger one than the other.
Hmm.
So I always like to incorporate different.
I love that. And thank you for taking me through the clairs. Because that is exactly it. We have all of them and they're just dormant. They're not waking up.
Yeah,
What's the other thing that we can do? If we pause long enough to
yeah,
feel them,
yeah,
just pause. Like just pause with you yourself and just be. There's nothing to do. There's nothing, no breath work, no nothing. Just be. Then you can tap into those and they can awake, but they will never awake with the chaos of the world and the mind and the monkey mind that we are mostly living in. A lot of
yeah. And
us.
it takes practice to quiet the monkey mind. I'll never forget when I first started, I couldn't sit 5 minutes. I just couldn't do it. My brain kept going. But you find certain things that help you. So when I was first starting, holding a crystal was really helping me ground my energy. Then I was doing guided meditations because I found that if I had a guide with me, that was more simpler for me to follow because I'm more of a rule follower. So that made sense for me. And now I do just high vibrational music, or sometimes I'll be by myself. But for me, being by myself too long is easier for the monkey mind to climb. So if I have like high vibrational music, it just brings me centered back, or a guided meditation. So whatever flows for you,
And it's
you just
different.
gotta experiment and find it.
Breath work is what helped me because as soon as my mind started going, I return to my breath. If my thoughts started going, I return to so it's like that meditative of the
Mm,
breath work in and out. And then that's also what really um, allowed me. I didn't even know what it meant to be in your body, to feel in your body. Like I didn't even know that. Like that's what
right.
breath work did for me too, because I started breathing properly and then breathing from my abdomen to my heart, but just sensing it in my nostrils, like just feeling like the breath is so powerful. Like you can breathe into a sore spot and it can dissipate because it's just energy that is stuck there that needs to.
Yeah.
It's just every energy in motion. It's not in motion, it's you get stuck. So breath work is really what helped me. And that was, I think I did it. I started a month after I resigned a couple of years ago and did a
Oh wow.
6 month program, facilitation, trauma-informed facilitation program certificate. And it was just for me. It was not to teach it one day, but how could I not? So many people are forgetting to breathe. I wasn't breathing. I was holding my breath. Didn't even know it. Was not even
Yeah.
aware. Holding my breath when I was thinking, holding my breath when I was stressed, holding my breath when I was anxious, holding my breath. Like that is
Yeah.
not good for your, yeah. And now I teach it
And
and it's love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I remember when I was first starting meditation, is that they tell you to do a deep inhale, deep exhale, and I was like, oh, my lungs can go that big.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like the little reminders. Like even today, I was walking across campus, and I was like, oh, I'm a little out of breath. And then I heard this little nudge, like, it's because you were holding your breath. You gotta like breathe as you walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I was at the hospital a couple visits and everybody's fine. But
okay.
both the rehabilitation center and the hospital that I went to, one um, uh, family member had a little device that to breathe into it to make sure that she was breathing deeply because it's
Mm,
so important to get that oxygen in your body, but also to remove, right? So it's a little
yeah.
thing that just kind of floated. And then on my uncle's chalkboard, it said to do, take deep breaths. Like we are coming back.
Wow.
Breath. Yeah. So it's everywhere and how important it is and how much we take it for granted that is again, in 5 minutes, taking those 3 deep cleansing breaths. That's not even 5 minutes, getting off your desk, going for a walk.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is the case for you, and I have become much better at this, but I didn't give myself permission to get off my desk. I didn't give myself permission to
Same. I'm
take that.
still fighting that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, because of the performance wheel, because of the society, because of the pressure, because of the competition, because is someone going to say, oh, what are you doing? Slacking? Like all the comments that are made that I'm sure you've heard through school, through work, through, right? Like why do we all have to be on this performance wheel and adding so much stress to us? And we're not breathing while we're on this performance wheel for
Yeah.
self-worth, for self-love, for self-acceptance, for like, it's all here. Let's give ourselves permission to return, to start returning home, to remember who you are. And it's none of those things. It's right here. And then
Yeah.
we will get the marks. We still will get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
We'll still will be effective, but even more so, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
And what Spirit's bringing through as well is that if, taking those deep breaths isn't your cup of tea, because, every modality isn't everybody's cup of tea,
Yeah.
tried to get into movement. For me, sometimes the deep breaths work. Sometimes I actually need to physically remove myself from my office and walk. So, meditation, breath work, all these modalities, are amazing, but you have to find what works for you. So, if it's yoga, if it's stretching, walking meditation, like whatever works,
Yeah.
you'll get that click, I think. For me, I
Can I
got that
share a
click.
funny story about my beginning of my yoga practice?
Yes.
This was maybe in between the crystals and the essential oils. And love, I'm an athlete. I've always been in sports and still playing golf to this day and pickleball. Like I'm very active. Um, I was using yoga for me as
Hmm.
that permission. It's an hour class. My only goal was to just lay on the mat. Even if I didn't make one movement, I didn't do
Oh,
one,
wow.
just be on the mat for an hour. I couldn't do it. I did not make it an hour and I left. Like that's that slowing down that I didn't give myself permission. Like I felt all the guilt that came up and the shame came up. And it
God.
happened again when I was doing my breathwork certification. Like I had to do hours and hours of breath work and laying on a couch doing this breath work. And it comes up still when I think about it, feeling guilty. I have this to do. I have this to do. I have this to check off. I have going, Jenny, stop resisting it. Like a real, like beautiful, full, I resisted it for 3 months out of the 6 months. That's how
Wow.
long it took me to, I think, out of my last position in corporate to realign, to do a little healing, to give myself permission for not going, what am I missing? What am I doing? Like to get off the performance wheel. I think it took me 3 months. And had I not done this breathwork program, facilitation program, I think it'll take me a lot longer because it's that practice when I was determined to get in alignment, to know what it feels in my body, to
Mm,
drop from my head to my heart, all those things into my new next chapter of my life in whatever I decide to do is going to be from that space. I knew that that's what I wanted, but wow, like guilt and shame for being lazy.
yes, for me, it was not being productive. Um, so I remember when COVID started, I had really high anxiety. So I started to do a yoga practice, just a quick like YouTube video. And I was like, I couldn't like hold the positions. And I was like, well, what am I doing? And I kept hearing like, you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else. So even if you don't hit the pose or you don't hit in that pose for as many seconds as the instructor does, like take a deep breath. It's not a performance. It's not going to be judged. And I think that changed my whole perspective of, wow, like, because all you see is social media, like all these people doing their healing modalities, and you're like, whoa, she can do that. I can't do that. And then it gets negative. So for Spirit to bring through that, hey, as long if you can hold it that position or whatever you're trying to do for 5 seconds, that's amazing.
Hey, congratulations. Give yourself that. Yeah. Um, yeah. And that took a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
that
if
took
it's
me a
just like,
long time.
yeah, and like you said, I bet you can today hold your pose longer because you gave yourself grace. You gave yourself, it's everything is a practice. Everything you get better at once you right? Like
Yeah.
it's not overnight. I don't even know. Like I've heard many stories about the original question that you asked me about my spiritual awakeness. And
Hmm.
I don't know if I could have done it all at once. Like, I think that I loved the fact that it was so titrated and so slow. And it was one thing and then adding another thing and then adding another thing. And it's all sustainable now. If it would have been fast, I don't know if I don't think I would have wished that to be any different than what it was to for me to be sitting here today with you, not doing seven other things when I'm on this podcast either, just being with you,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the other
Right.
thing. you're never present when you're always checking off the boxes and on that performance wheel. And I believe,
Exactly.
yeah, but I'm hearing it, and I'm sure you are too, in this beautiful on your with other guests on your podcast and hearing it, that people are using these words of pausing, people are using heart-centered, people are shifting from something that, I'm sorry, for me anyways, was not sustainable, and into, I don't think I'm any less productive. I don't think I'm any less like, I just give myself permission to pause. I give myself permission to take a
Yeah.
step out and read, so that I am not short. I'm not screaming at my kids. I'm not, because that's all that comes from when you're all over and you're
Right.
not centered.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
me recently, I've been giving myself either a Saturday or Sunday to be completely unproductive because that just realigns me back. Like I always was like editing the podcast on Saturday and then trying to publish it on Sunday. And my spirit
Mhm.
team was like, you need one day for yourself because I work Monday through Friday already. And by the time I
Yeah.
get home, I'm like done.
How
So
long have you
they're like,
been doing that?
one day for yourself. And that's what
Yeah.
I've slowly been incorporating. So
How long have you been doing incorporating that?
a couple of months now, like I'm really have
Yeah.
been trying to stick to it. That's the hardest part for me being a type A productive person is like I always got to do something. And now I'm like, you know what? I just need a break.
We need to add pause and break as our to do on our to do list. Did you put it in your calendar? That worked for me
Oh, I didn't. No.
because that's what you're doing today. So you're following the rules like you like, and you're you're atypical. So it says rest day. My day, I have meditation with Jenny, and I have movement with Jenny. Like, this is my time with me, and I have it in I have it in my calendar, which then just keeps me on. There's no guilt about it. It's a rest day. It's a
Mhm.
day of rest. That is my job today. That's what I get to do today. So try putting it on your calendar. I think you might
Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna give that a go.
Yeah. And then you're following the rules and you're atypical, and it says, "Hey, I got to rest today." And you're going to resist it because you're going to want to do something. And nope, that's what I have to do today. I have to rest. A rest can be a walk in the park, a rest can be whatever, but it's not put anything on your
My
checklist,
to-do list.
or it's your being list. It's your
Yes,
be today.
exactly.
Uh,
So I'd love for you to talk about the lodge. I've been following you on Instagram and I've looked at your website and I just love the energy, period, about all. Can you go into a little bit about it? Like what inspired it?
I would love to. So when very shortly after I resigned, a this place, the lodge came up, and there was no question. Like, I had already been running retreats, like I said, following the breadcrumbs. I didn't finish the complete breadcrumb, but I'd been running retreats in Huntsville, away from home, on retreats, and I'm going, oh my gosh, we need something like that in my community. We don't have a place like that, and then not have to drive 5 hours to it. So it's a big log cabin, and there's like 12 beds. So I'm like, this is perfect. So it started out
Ooh,
as the desire and the dream to own my own retreat center where I can run my retreats, but I also can mentor other women who are in the spiritual community, in the whether they're a entrepreneur, a practitioner. I have therapists now that have only done one-on-one, doing group therapy here. I think we're
wow.
all wanting to come together. Since we all know what happened in 2020 and we were isolated, I think, and then we moved to the screens, and I think people are craving that connection again. So the
Yes.
beautiful loft space has allowed not only myself, but the community of healers and teachers and facilitators and practitioners to come and run training programs and workshops. Like, it's lifting up the vibration and the frequency of
Mm,
the whole community. Um, I've never, I say it all the time. It's not my lodge, it's everybody's lodge. And that watching these women shine their light and maybe have pushed it down for such a long time, and who may be still working a job that they eventually want to get out of. That is their breadcrumb that now I'm giving them the opportunity, and the lodge is giving them the opportunity to start running workshops. It's an hour workshop once a month. Get
Wow.
the momentum, get the practice, do shine your light, like take your certificates off the shelves. Let's go. Like, and I get to lead and be the heart-centered leader with mentoring them and filling the space that way. And then they do retreats, and so it's a wellness center. I'm so super happy to launch my corporate wellness days again. Corporations are doing the best that they can, and they even have budgets now, and some from the government and some from the corporation, adding wellness budgets, knowing that burnout is real, work-life balance is important, all of these things, especially after finding that people can be as productive working half from home, half from, there's a beautiful little shift that has happened after
Yeah.
COVID. And I see all the tend to see the positive in everything, but there was a lot of beautiful shifts that have happened after that. So how are they keeping it? So I can go to their boardroom, but they can also come to the lodge because it's a space for the team to get together outside of their regular default
Yeah.
environment where it's hard to get off of your desk. Encourage your employees to leave and come for an hour workshop, for a day retreat, whatever. I customize it to the needs of the corporation, or and schools. I love schools too.
Mm,
The kids come in here, they have a little workshop in the of gratitude, and just starting them early into their daily routine and practice of self-care and spiritual growth.
yeah.
So starting that, and that is to start that at grade 8 or grade 9 or grade 10, how beautiful would that be?
Oof,
There'd
that's
be less self.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I work in a school district, so I've been seeing, through COVID, after COVID, in one of the schools that I work at, in an elementary school, it's the really young kids, they do wellness morning on Wednesdays. And they just take 10 minutes and all the kids just do deep breathing and just starts their day. And even now, like at the high school that I also work at, they do yoga for credit now. So
yay. Yeah,
it's like
that's
full
amazing. It's
circle is like
coming into
really
the,
starting to coming together.
oh, yeah. That makes my heart sing, because that's where the passion and the like I know the impact that it made on my life when in my journey. And if I can just help anybody, whether it's the students, whether it's the corporations, whether it's like, it's really, that's what I love doing. And
Yeah.
seeing the difference in somebody's body language, and somebody's difference in their forehead's not as wrinkled because they're stressed, like watching them walk in this lodge one way and then leave in such a different state, even if it was just for that hour, and they're going to go back the next day, and probably, because again, it's a practice, it takes a
Yeah.
lot of, it's not overnight. It's a journey. It's not overnight, but
It's
that's what
not a
I'm,
marathon.
it's not a marathon, and I would not have wanted it any other way. Like I said, because that would have been too much, I think. Like it would have been
Yeah.
too much nervous system, too much on, yeah. So, and that's what I'm really hoping to, with the hands-on heart approach. It's a 5-step thing. If I can get everybody to just do this 5-step thing, and they're doing it before every classroom starts, before every boardroom starts, you imagine just 5 steps and just taking 3 cleansing breaths, in how the world would shift and how it would change.
Yeah. It'd be
And
amazing.
trying to keep it real simple. Yeah. And then of course
Simplicity
that,
is goes far.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
need to wrap this episode up, but I
Yeah.
know you're starting a podcast. I'd love for you just to talk about what the concept is.
Okay, so yes, I will be launching my podcast, Leading with Love. It's part of the Leading with Love movement and everything that I'm about and putting out into the world. And it's really to have conversations like this about how there could be a different way. I've recorded a bunch of interviews already, getting ready, and I've had the most beautiful conversations with heart-centered leaders who
Mm.
have not always led that way and have shifted. And the one thing that is in common with everyone is that the leadership is not outside of you. It's not external, it's internal. And when I started doing my inner work, when I started awakening my inner leader, when I started awaken, all these conversations just are all, that's what's in common, is that once I went inward, once
Yeah.
I started doing the inner work, the inner child work, the this work, that the shadow, all of that, it did. When I started being even aware, it starts with the awareness that is
Hmm.
even right, like just being aware that it isn't outside of me that I should be seeking this worth, this self, this, it's called self-love for a reason. It's not out
Right.
there, it's in here. And
Yeah.
then when we hone all of that self-awareness, that self-acceptance, that self-compassion, that self-love, then we become better leaders because we did the inner work, and now we're not short and we're not as easily
Yeah.
triggered. Of course, we're still going to get triggered, but we're not going to waste them when we do get triggered, because we're going to go, oh, that's something in me. That's not your fault, and putting the blame on everybody else like a lot of people do. Right? Like, so it's just taking that radical responsibility as a human being and as a leader. And these conversations are beautiful. So I'll be launching that. It's called Leading with Love. And it's just to go dive a little bit deeper into maybe a workshop that we're doing at the lodge. Like, it's all tying into, I have a free Facebook group, Leading with Love Movement. It's free to join.
Mm.
And that's where, again, the questions are asked, some journaling prompts, some stuff to get, just keep this conversation going. And then, of course, what better way to do that than with the podcast? So yeah, starting a
That's
movement,
amazing.
Leading with Love Movement. It's gonna
Yay.
go start in my little beautiful Essex County, and it's gonna grow.
I feel it's gonna flourish everywhere.
Uh,
I can't wait to listen to the podcast. So you're gonna have to let me know when it comes out. So
yes.
I always love to end with where can people find you? Social media, website, any offerings?
I do have my website, jennynatyshak.com, Jenny. I think you'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, I will.
Natyshak. That shows you that you can join the Leading with Love movement. That's right at the top, because that's at the top of my heart right now. But there is ways to work with me one-on-one. I do virtual one-on-one coaching and breath work sessions for an hour. I have packs of 10. I'm about to launch with a partner a coaching program, but we're going to do it in a group setting. And just my partner she's been my spiritual mentor for the last 2 years, and we're going to be able to just put all of this juicy business, spiritual work, all of this
Mm,
into a beautiful container, 3-month container for coaching. Um, but yeah, it's been quite a different last couple of years than the last 25 before that. And I'm so proud of myself that I said yes to myself, because if I hadn't, I would be doing the same thing. And again, I am not advocating that anybody, I did a lot of my best work in that environment,
yeah,
because that's where the triggers were. That's where I was dismissing myself. That's where it was nobody's fault. I did not blame anybody around me, my partners, my
yep,
family. It was a family business. It was no blame on anybody. It was, oh, I forgot about me. Is that in alignment with me? The work started in that environment, and it was a beautiful place to start. So you can still keep the same job. You can still stay in corporate. You can still stay whatever it is that you're doing. You can just show up differently and stop and go in with that
yeah.
alignment in mind. And then
Amazing, Jenny.
yes, thank you so much. This was so much fun. And then you're gonna come on my podcast as my guest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I loved this conversation so much.
You.
This will launch next Monday.
Okay.
So, friends, we will see you then. Have a blessed, blessed day.
Thank you.